breaking right now, Prince Harry is pushing ahead with what I believe is a deranged court case versus the publisher of the newspaper that I used to be the executive editor of, The Sun. So, the Duke is one of 2 remaining claimants that will pursue legal action against News Group newspapers after 39 others settled their case. So we now only have Prince Harry and Tom Watson, the former Deputy Labour leader, who is obsessed with the phone hacking story, who have opted to push on towards a trial scheduled for January 2025. Well, guess what? Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, who's with me, I've got some news here because I've offered a witness statement to this trial. I'm one of the people who potentially will appear in court on behalf of News Group newspapers. And if it goes to court, Brittany, I'm very, very happy to do this because I believe this is a deranged campaign by Prince Harry. It's not anchored in any fact. It's all about revenge, and it's all about trying to embarrass his brother and his father, who did a deal for the good of the royal family. And I'm really interested by some of your analysis, actually, Brittany. Just before we come to you, I want to read out something that you posted, where you said it's clear that Prince Harry has an unhealthy obsession with the media. He believes that they are responsible for all the alleged wrongs in his life. Even if he wins this case or others, he will find that the victory is fleeting. His life will not get better. His wife will still not be happy. His press will still be bad. His family will still despise him. His mother will still be dead. Nothing will change except maybe he can make enough in the settlement to pocket some cash after paying his lawyers. He'll only find peace if he accepts his failures, accepts the press for what it is now and what his delusions tell him they are, and move on. And goodness me, Brittany, you are so right. You are so right, because Harry, it's not the press that ruined your life. You ruined it yourself by deciding to treat your family, including your late grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, like a piece of dirt. And that's why the public turned on you, Harry. It's nothing to do with the media. You were beloved in this country. Does he not remember the times when, even after the Nazi uniform scandal, he was the most popular royal, even more popular than the late Queen? Oh, sorry, Brittany, over to you. I'm so mad about this.
Dan Wootton does not hold back here. He calls Harry's lawsuit against the Sun deranged and suggests that this is not about justice, but about personal revenge. And let's be honest, he's right. While nearly 40 other claimants have settled their cases, Harry is one of the last standings. Why? Because this is personal for him. He isn't looking for accountability. He wants to punish the media for daring to criticize him and Meghan. Even King Charles and Prince William moved on from this issue years ago. But Harry, he's holding on to it like a grudge that will never die. He wants to drag this into the public eye, not realizing that the only person getting humiliated is himself. This is one of the most ridiculous aspects of Harry's entire persona. He genuinely believes that the media is responsible for everything wrong in his life. Failed relationships, the press. His strained relationship with his father, the press. His declining popularity, the press. But let's look at the facts.
Oh, I mean, it's so crazy. I mean, at one point in one of the statements, and I can't remember which court case this was related to, he says he's slaying dragons. And I don't know about you, but I think most kids grow out of trying to slay dragons by the time they're like 10. So this sort of delusion and this sort of obsession that he has with the media is just very, very concerning in some ways, because I truly do think if he wins this case, he believes that this will magically fix everything. And it's not. It's his decisions that have led him to the place where he is now. And even if he wins, nothing will really change. The press still are going to write their negative stories about him because he has become sort of this toxic figure, and they'll still continue to investigate the mistakes that he's made and all the things surrounding his wife. None of that will get any better. And he's made decisions, I think, in his life based on, let's say, Meghan Markle or something like that, like not going to see his grandmother the day before she died because he had a free day that day.
Yes.
The only person he has to blame for not going is himself and his wife. But he like doesn't seem to understand any of that. He just constantly blames the press for everything. Every ill in his life seems to be an issue of the press. And I was reading again a little bit of Spare, doing some research in the last little pages. And I mean, so many of them are filled with just diatribes against the media. And I'm like, that's not really the problem. You've made errors in judgment. And until you accept that those were your mistake, nothing's going to change. He'll become just more bitter over time because he can't seem to accept that he is a critical, actually, even just basically, he is the responsible for everything in his life, essentially. Yes, the media plays a role. Yes, his family plays a role, but he has made all the decisions that have led him to this spot. And I think some of it is a manipulation of his wife as well. But this court case, people tried, his father in particular, tried to talk him out of it, not because he wanted to prevent Harry from getting a win or something like that, but because it wasn't really useful. It was sort of pointless. So he's like, just don't do it. You'll cause yourself more strife. Just let things go. And Harry just seems to be unable to let things go to his own detriment. He might be out millions after this and nothing to show for it.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. And look, the thing is, Brittany, firstly, you're so right about the day before Queen Elizabeth II died. I knew she was in a very bad way. I went on national television at the top of my GB News show that night, and I said, Harry, stop what you're doing. Get to Balmoral. You will regret it if you don't. And he didn't. And shame on him. And no matter how he tries to frame what happened after the death in the pages of Spare, to pin the blame on Prince William for not picking him up in the royal plane, that is rubbish. He could have gone to Balmoral himself to see his grandmother. So he has to live with that. He also has to live with the fact that he made his grandmother's final months on Earth pretty miserable because of a completely false allegation of racism. So that's the first thing.
For years, the media adored Harry. He was the fun prince, the soldier, the guy who connected with the public. The shift didn't happen because of some grand media conspiracy. It happened because Harry made a series of bad choices and people saw through it. Exactly. Harry wants to believe that he's the victim of a coordinated attack, but in reality he has sabotaged his own reputation through his own actions. This is where the difference between real leadership and Harry's victim mentality becomes clear. Charles and William knew that dragging the royal family into a messy legal war would only make things worse. So what did they do? They settled. Not because they were guilty, not because they were weak, but because they understood that the bigger picture was more important than personal grievances. That's what responsible leaders do.
The second thing, when it comes to the actual specific claims that he's making against the British media, I know for a fact, Brittany, that many of them are complete fantasy, complete delusion. Many of them are wrong. And this is a guy who has tried lawfare on me before. He eventually gave up. But let me tell you, when he was trying lawfare against me, Brittany, the claim was full of lies. And they were lies that I could prove were lies. So what my point is that he is very often encouraged by his lawyers to pursue fantasies, to pursue delusions. Very, very often what he believes happened are a fairy tale. It is not the truth. And as I say, I've seen this happen. The third thing that I want to say is that I think it is disgusting that he is trying to impugn his father's reputation, not to mention his brother, but his father specifically, at a time that his father is battling cancer. So let me take you into this a little bit further, because as part of the latest legal ruling here, it has emerged that King Charles tried to prevent Harry from suing the son. Now again, this is all revealed by Harry at the trial, where he has revealed that his father, quote, acted to discourage and stymie him from pursuing legal action. This was revealed by Mr. Justice Fancourt, but only revealed by the judge because he was quoting from a document filed by the Duke's legal team. And the judge has now granted Harry's legal team access to a cache of Buckingham Palace emails sent between two members of the royal household and specific senior executives at News Group newspapers. And Brittany, while all of this is very technical, if I can just sum it up, that what Harry is trying to do is embarrass members of the royal family for doing a deal with the media. But the deal made sense. The deal was a peace deal. It was to say, yes, phone hacking happened. It was absolutely appalling. It was one of the worst chapters in Fleet Street history, but we have to move on. We've got to move on for the good of everyone, because it's very important that the British media has a positive relationship with the royal family. And what I find particularly disgusting is that one of the email addresses that Harry is demanding access to, Brittany, is Sir Christopher Gite, who was the private secretary to Queen Elizabeth II. So Harry doesn't even have a problem with trying to embarrass his grandmother beyond the grave.
Harry, on the other hand, doesn't care about the institution. He just wants revenge. This is exactly why Charles and William don't want anything to do with this case. Harry doesn't care who gets hurt in the process. He's willing to throw his own family under the bus just to prove a point. Let's say, for argument's sake, that Harry wins this case. What does he actually gain? A moral victory? A little bit of money? None of it will fix what's really broken. Winning a lawsuit isn't going to restore his relationship with his father. It's not going to make the British public love him again. It's certainly not going to fix his career, which, let's be honest, is in a free fall right now.
I mean, it's absolutely despicable. I mean, this is just really a campaign of vengeance at the end of the day. And so he just wants to go on this fact-finding or fishing expedition, hoping to find something that he can go, here, I'm right. And I would say as well, shame on his lawyers for just continuing to fuel his delusions at this point, because they have to know at some ways that this is probably really not going to go anywhere. But they're like, well, we can just keep going and digging and digging. And what we find has happened with some of these court cases as well is that as documents come up, they become public, they become fodder for the front pages. This is what happened with Meghan's case. At the end of the day, she might have won, but did she really win in the realm of public opinion? No, because so many different things got out that actually went directly against her narrative, and she had to basically come out and admit that, well, she said she didn't know or forgot or something, but basically she had lied to the court about some missing emails and text messages. And so this case continues to go on. And it's just such an absolute shame that Harry is just trying to dig into his family and reveal things just to fulfill his own delusions, his own narcissism, his own vendetta, because he lives, I think, in a sea of regret in some ways regarding some of his decisions, but those are his decisions. And he keeps trying to, I think, force his family to believe something that they're like, Harry, you were delusional. Charles told him that in spare. Harry admitted, Charles told him, you're being delusional. And I think everybody has told him that at some point. And he just can't seem to see through to reality at this point. And he just kind of keeps digging and digging, but the only hole he's really going to dig is for himself. And hopefully, obviously we don't know what's contained within those emails, but a relationship with the press is a must for royal family, as it is for any public figure. Everybody has to deal with the press. You have to figure out how to have that relationship and have it be positive. That's why there's a whole business called PR, is how you manage public relations and aspects of different media. And
Harry
that is
does it all the time.
Thing.
Harry
Exactly.
and Meghan have all of their own favourable journalists, like that really odd little man, that weird little guy, Omid Scobie, who they were leaking information to constantly. So, you're completely right, Brittany. The idea that that the royal family was doing something nefarious or immoral by having a relationship with the publisher of Britain's biggest newspapers is ludicrous. They were actually doing the responsible thing. And as I say, exactly. I was working there at that time. I know that there was a real desire to move on by both parties, because at some point you have to. Yes, wrongdoing was done. People went to jail for it, Brittany. I mean, it's not as if there were not repercussions. The News of the World shut down as a result. Rupert Murdoch is still paying out hundreds of millions of pounds in settlements as a result of this criminality. So the idea that nothing was done and that the British media didn't change is complete poppycock. But with Harry, this is about a personal vendetta. And I think the other point that I should make is that you talk about how terrible his lawyers are pursuing this path and aren't trying to steer him in the right direction. The problem is, Brittany, he has activist lawyers. So he is represented by David Sherborne. This relationship all came up as a result of David Sherborne representing Elton John. There was that friendship between Elton John and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, which dated back many years, of course, because of Elton John's relationship with Princess Diana.
Harry and Meghan's Netflix deal is on thin ice. Spotify executives called them grifters. Even in Hollywood, where victimhood is a commodity, people are starting to see them for what they really are: entitled, out of touch, and unable to move on. This lawsuit is just another attempt to stay relevant. And let's be real. Do we really believe that Meghan isn't pushing this behind the scenes? Harry has become more of an activist than a royal, and everything about this case feels like another step in the Meghan Markle PR playbook. Sue the media, play the victim, rinse and repeat. So where does this leave Prince Harry? He has alienated his family, lost the trust of the British public, and is now engaged in a lawsuit that even his own father and brother wanted no part of.
And David Sherborne wants Harry to continue pursuing this action because David Sherborne wants this action to be pursued for his own celebrity, his own fame. He has been on a decades-long campaign versus the British media. So I do think that's the problem. A lot of people have tried to say to Harry, look, this isn't the right thing. This is actually going to cost you dearly and you're not going to achieve anything. But his lawyers want to push forward with this, regardless of the damage that it's going to do to Prince Harry. And certainly regardless of the damage that it's going to do with Prince Harry's relationship with his family. And I think the other thing that's annoying me at the moment, Brittany, is there's this real drumbeat from Tina Brown, for example, for Prince William, to just put all of Harry's bad behaviour to one side and welcome Harry back into the royal fold and let bygones be bygones. And it's like, this isn't over, Tina Brown. Harry is trying to drag his father and his brother into erroneous court cases, which will hit their reputation. It's like Harry's bad behavior is not over. It's continuing. And this lawfare proves it.
Exactly. And so they can't welcome Harry back at this point, because as long as I believe he's still in a relationship with Meghan Markle, there's just absolutely no way to welcome him back and have, I think, a good relationship. And for Harry to actually, you could say, mend the fences. And I'm not saying that they say, well, Harry, you're back into the working royal fold and everything like that. But just to sort of maybe have a meeting of minds or something like that, Harry has to admit fault. He has yet to do any of that. He has yet to say he did anything wrong. And until he does that, there's just absolutely no way the royal family can really start even welcoming him back in any way, shape, or form. I know Charles wants a relationship with him, and I can't say that's a bad thing because obviously Charles wants to see his grandchildren. And you have to think how terrible and cruel are Harry and Meghan to deny Charles an opportunity to see his grandchildren, especially as he's battling cancer, because, they need the security. And until they get it, they won't bring the kids there. It's just absolutely, I think, utterly cruel of them to do. And so Harry just has to, he's just going to be out in the wind until the royal family, yes, he may have a relationship with them, but it will never be the same. Even if he divorces Meghan, even if he comes back, it will never be the same as it was before. They will never fully trust him again, because not only did he go along with, let's say, Meghan's machinations, is he was 100% on board. He didn't question it. He went along with it, and he continues it to this day. And so until he recognizes his fault in the situation, there's no route forwards for reconciliation. And I don't think there should be. William, I think for his own benefit, It'd be good if he forgave Harry at some point just for his own mental health. But that doesn't mean he welcomes Harry back into the family as if nothing has happened. That's never what that's meant. But I think that's a positive thing for William, but he's still going to keep Harry's at arm's length for the rest of his life. I don't think Harry will ever be within William's inner circle ever again, to be honest.
This isn't about justice. This isn't about ethics. This is about one man's obsession with rewriting history and punishing the press for telling the truth. Dan Wootton is absolutely right. Harry is self-destructing in real time. The only question left is, how much further will he fall before he realizes that the world has moved on? At this point, it's not even about whether Harry wins or loses the lawsuit. He's already lost where it really matters, with the people.